Imagine this: you wake up tomorrow, and every number you encounter has a new, profound meaning. The clock reads 7.07. Your breakfast receipt totals $14.82. On your way to work, the car in front of you has a license plate ending in 333. But something feels different. These numbers aren't just numbers anymore, they feel alive, as if they're speaking directly to you, telling you something about your life, your psyche, your very existence. You start to wonder, is this a coincidence, or could there be something deeper at play? What if numbers aren't just abstract mathematical constructs, but psychological symbols that reveal the hidden architecture of our minds? In this video, we're diving into the psychology of numbers as explored by Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who believed that numbers are more than mere quantities. For Jung, numbers were archetypes, universal, primordial patterns of meaning that shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. By the end of this journey, you won't look at numbers the same way again. Are you ready to uncover the mystery of how numbers might hold the key to understanding yourself and the universe? Let's start with a story. Jung himself had a fascination with numbers that began in childhood. He once described how, as a boy, he was mesmerized by the number 1. To him, it wasn't just the first number in a sequence, it represented unity, wholeness, and the beginning of all things. Later, as he delved deeper into his work on the collective unconscious, he realized that numbers are among the oldest archetypes in human history. Think about it. Long before we had written language, humans used numbers to make sense of the world. Numbers helped us track the seasons, navigate the stars, and measure the passage of time. They became symbols of order in an otherwise chaotic universe. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jung noticed that numbers often appear in dreams, myths, and spiritual experiences, and not just as random details, but as symbols loaded with meaning. For example, the number 3 often represents creativity and growth, while the number 4 symbolizes stability and completeness. These patterns aren't limited to any one culture or time period, they're universal. Why? Because they're rooted in the collective unconscious, the shared reservoir of knowledge and experience that all humans inherit. Click subscribe to this channel to get more insights into human psychology. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a moment when a number seemed to follow you everywhere? Maybe you kept seeing the number 11.11 on clocks, or you noticed the same number popping up in different parts of your life. Did it feel like more than a coincidence? Jung would say that these experiences, which he called synchronicities, are meaningful coincidences. They're moments when the outer world reflects something happening in your inner world. It's as if the universe is speaking to you in the language of numbers. To bring this idea to life, let's do a quick psychological experiment. Think of the first number that comes to mind. Got it? Now ask yourself, what does this number mean to you? Does it remind you of something, a person, a memory, an event? Does it evoke a feeling, joy, fear, curiosity? Take a moment to write it down, or just hold it in your mind. Now, let's decode it. According to Jungian psychology, numbers can reveal hidden aspects of your psyche. For example, if you thought of the number 7, you might be drawn to its association with introspection and spirituality. If you thought of the number 2, it could reflect a desire for balance or connection. These meanings aren't fixed, but they're powerful starting points for self-reflection. The number you chose might be trying to tell you something about where you are in your life right now, or where you need to go. Here's another fascinating example. Jung worked with a patient who kept having dreams about the number 4. In one dream, she saw a square divided into 4 parts. In another, she envisioned 4 animals standing at the corners of a room. Jung realized that the number 4 represented her search for wholeness. The square symbolized balance and integration, while the 4 animals represented the 4 functions of the psyche: thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition. By exploring these dreams, the patient was able to understand herself on a deeper level and make profound changes in her life. But numbers don't just appear in dreams, they also show up in myths, religions, and cultural traditions. Take the number 3, for example. In Christianity, it represents the Holy Trinity. In Hinduism, it's the 3 gunas, or fundamental qualities of nature. In fairy tales, it's the 3 wishes, the 3 trials, the 3 magical objects. Why does this pattern keep repeating? Jung would argue that it's because the number 3 reflects a universal psychological truth. The process of growth often involves a dynamic interplay of opposites, followed by the emergence of something new, a synthesis. It's a pattern that we see in nature, in relationships, and in our own personal journeys. Let's pause for a moment. Think about the numbers that have been significant in your own life. Maybe it's your birth date, your lucky number, or even the number of people in your family. What do these numbers mean to you? Have they shaped your identity in some way? If you're willing to share, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your stories. Now, let's take this to the next level. Imagine designing your own psychological experiment to explore the meaning of numbers in your life. Here's how it works. For the next week, pay attention to the numbers you encounter. Write them down. Notice where they appear on clocks, receipts, addresses, phone numbers. At the end of the week, look for patterns. Are there certain numbers that stand out? What do they remind you of? How do they make you feel? This exercise isn't just about collecting data, it's about tuning into the subtle ways that your unconscious mind might be communicating with you through the language of numbers. Numbers are not just symbols of order and meaning in our inner world, they often act as bridges between the conscious and unconscious mind. Carl Jung believed that numbers could sometimes manifest as guides, pointing us toward deeper truths about ourselves and our lives. To illustrate this, let's dive into another story from Jung's work. Jung once recounted the experience of a man who kept seeing the number 22. It showed up everywhere on receipts, in his dreams, in random conversations. At first, the man dismissed it as a coincidence, but as the number continued to appear, he began to feel an almost uncanny connection to it. Jung suggested that the man explore the symbolic meaning of 22. Together, they uncovered that it represented a duality for him. On one hand, it symbolized mastery and accomplishment, as 22 is often considered a master number in numerology, but on the other, it revealed an underlying fear of failure and instability. The man realized that he was at a crossroads in his life, torn between the desire to push forward and the fear of losing control. By working with Jung, he used the recurring number as a catalyst to confront these inner conflicts and ultimately make decisions that aligned with his true self. Now, what about you? Have you ever had a number appear so frequently that it felt like it was trying to tell you something? If you have, think about where you were in your life at the time. Were you facing a major decision or struggling with a particular problem? Often, the numbers that stand out to us are connected to themes that are already present in our subconscious minds. They're like mirrors reflecting the things we might not yet be fully aware of. Let's dig even deeper into Jung's perspective on numbers. He didn't just see them as psychological symbols, he also believed they were fundamental to the structure of reality itself. In one of his most famous collaborations with the physicist Wolfgang Pauli, Jung explored the idea that numbers might be the bridge between the physical world and the world of the psyche. Together, they developed the concept of unus mundus, or one world, which suggests that the physical and psychological realms are two aspects of the same underlying reality. Numbers, they argued, are the building blocks of this reality. They're not just abstractions, they're expressions of the deep order that connects everything in the universe. This brings us to the idea of synchronicity, which is central to Jung's understanding of numbers. Synchronicity is what happens when outer events align within a psychological state in a way that feels meaningful but can't be explained by cause and effect. For example, imagine you're struggling with a decision about whether to take a new job. You're feeling torn, unsure of which path to choose. Then, out of the blue, you see a billboard with the number 8 and the word infinity written across it. Later that day, you notice the time on your phone is 8:08. That evening, a friend calls to tell you about a new opportunity, and the address they mention ends with an 8. You start to feel that the number 8 is guiding you, perhaps signaling that this new opportunity could lead to a cycle of growth or renewal. Jung would say that this isn't just random. It's an example of how the unconscious mind uses symbols, in this case, numbers, to communicate with us. The number 8 might not hold the same meaning for everyone, but for you, in that moment, it became a symbol of infinity, of possibility, of moving forward. Synchronicities like this are a reminder that there's often more going on beneath the surface of our lives than we realize. Now, let's return to the psychological experiment we started earlier. Over the past week, you may have noticed certain numbers standing out to you. If so, take a moment to reflect on what they might mean. Are they connected to a particular theme or pattern in your life? How do they make you feel? If you're not sure, try this. Write down your thoughts and associations with the number. Don't overthink it, just let your intuition guide you. Sometimes, the meaning of a number becomes clear only after we've spent some time reflecting on it. Here's a practical exercise you can try to deepen your understanding of the psychology of numbers. Start by choosing a number that feels meaningful to you, either because it keeps appearing in your life or because you're drawn to it for some reason. Then explore its symbolic meaning. You can look into its significance in numerology, mythology, or religious traditions, or you can simply reflect on what it means to you personally. Once you've done this, set an intention to pay attention to how this number shows up in your life over the next month. Keep a journal where you record your observations. At the end of the month, review your notes and see if any patterns emerge. What does the number seem to be telling you? How has it shaped your thoughts, feelings, or actions? Now, let's shift gears a little. Jung's work on the psychology of numbers wasn't just theoretical, it was deeply personal. He often used his own experiences as a laboratory for exploring these ideas. For instance, Jung was fascinated by the number 4, which for him represented wholeness and balance. He saw it as a symbol of the mandala, a circular design that appears in many cultures as a representation of the self. Jung believed that the mandala, with its 4 quadrants, reflected the structure of the psyche. It's no coincidence that the number 4 is associated with stability and completeness in many traditions. Think about the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water, the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west, and the 4 seasons. These patterns are everywhere, reminding us of the deep order that underlies both nature and the human mind. Here's something you can try if you'd like to explore the symbolism of the number 4 in your own life. Draw a simple mandala, a circle divided into 4 parts. In each quadrant, write or draw something that represents one aspect of your psyche. For example, you might include your thoughts in one quadrant, your feelings in another, your physical sensations in a third, and your intuitions in the fourth. Then, take a step back and look at the whole picture. What does it reveal about your inner world? Are there areas that feel balanced and harmonious? Are there parts that feel disconnected or out of sync? This exercise can be a powerful way to connect with your unconscious mind and gain insight into your personal journey toward wholeness. Numbers, as Jung understood them, are not just tools for measuring or counting, they're gateways to deeper understanding. They help us make sense of the world, but they also challenge us to look beyond the surface and explore the hidden connections between the outer and inner realms. By paying attention to the numbers that appear in your life, you're not just learning about the world around you, you're also learning about yourself. And who knows? The next time you see a number that catches your attention, it might just be the universe whispering a message meant just for you. Numbers, as Carl Jung believed, are one of the oldest and most profound tools humanity has for connecting with the mysteries of existence. They are both deeply personal and universally significant. But what does it mean to move from seeing numbers as mere symbols to experiencing them as part of a deeper psychological and spiritual journey? To answer this, we need to explore the way numbers act like psychological mirrors. They reflect not only our inner struggles, but also our potential for growth, transformation, and even transcendence. Let's talk about the number 1. Jung saw the number 1 as the ultimate symbol of unity. It represents the beginning, the origin, and the indivisible whole. But here's the paradox. Unity often brings with it a sense of isolation. Think about how we use the phrase number 1 in our culture. It's often associated with competition, being the best, or standing alone at the top. This dual meaning reveals something profound about the human psyche. On one hand, we long for unity and wholeness. On the other, we fear being separate or isolated. The number 1, then, becomes a symbol of both the oneness we seek and the loneliness we sometimes feel in the process of achieving it. To bring this concept into your own life, let's try a reflective exercise. Think about a time when you felt like you were number 1 at something. Maybe it was an achievement, a promotion, or a moment when you were recognized for your talents. How did it feel? Were you proud, elated, or confident? Or did you also feel a sense of pressure, loneliness, or even guilt? This duality is a reminder that numbers, like life itself, are rarely one-dimensional. They carry layers of meaning that can help us better understand ourselves. Now let's consider the number 2. If 1 is about unity, 2 is about duality, light and dark, masculine and feminine, self and other. The number 2 represents relationships, balance and harmony, but it also represents conflict and opposition. Jung often spoke about the tension of opposites, a psychological process in which 2 seemingly contradictory forces come into conflict within us. It's only by holding this tension, he said, that we can grow and evolve. The number 2, then, is not just about balance, it's about the struggle to achieve it. Here's a practical way to explore this idea. Take a moment to reflect on a relationship in your life where you've experienced duality, perhaps with a friend, a partner, or even a family member. What are the opposites at play in this relationship? Is there love but also frustration, connection but also distance, support but also competition? Once you've identified these opposites, ask yourself, what would it look like to hold these tensions without trying to resolve them immediately? Sometimes, just acknowledging the duality is enough to move toward a deeper understanding of both yourself and the other person. The number 3 takes us into a new realm altogether. If 2 is about opposites, 3 is about synthesis, the coming together of opposites to create something new. Jung saw the number 3 as a symbol of creativity, growth, and transformation. It's no coincidence that many myths and stories revolve around the number 3. The 3 trials of the hero, the 3 wishes granted by a genie, the 3 acts of a story. In psychology, 3 often represents the process of individuation, the journey to become your true self. This journey involves integrating the different parts of your psyche, your conscious mind, your unconscious mind, and the collective unconscious into a harmonious whole. Let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced a moment in your life when 2 opposing forces came together to create something new? Maybe it was a conflict that led to a breakthrough, or a challenge that helped you discover a hidden strength. These moments often carry the energy of the number 3. They remind us that growth isn't just about resolving opposites, it's about transcending them. To explore this further, try this exercise. Think about a problem or conflict you're currently facing. Write down the 2 opposing forces at play. Then, ask yourself, what's the third option? What's the creative solution that could emerge from this tension? This process can help you move beyond binary thinking and open up new possibilities for growth and transformation. Now, let's talk about the number 4, which Jung considered one of the most important numbers in psychology. If 3 is about growth and creativity, 4 is about stability and wholeness. Jung often used the number 4 to symbolize the structure of the psyche, which he divided into 4 functions: thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition. He also saw the number 4 in the mandala, a symbol of the self that appears in cultures around the world. The mandala is often divided into 4 parts, representing the balance and integration of the psyche. But here's where it gets fascinating. The number 4 doesn't just represent stability, it also represents the process of achieving it. Think about the seasons, the 4 directions, or the 4 elements. Each of these systems is in constant motion, and yet they create a sense of balance and order. In the same way, the psyche is always in flux, but it's this very movement that allows us to grow and evolve. To connect with the energy of the number 4, try this. Create your own mandala. Start with a blank circle and divide it into 4 quadrants. In each quadrant, write or draw something that represents one aspect of your life: your thoughts, your emotions, your physical sensations, and your intuitions. Then, take a step back and look at the whole picture. What does it reveal about your inner world? Are there areas where you feel balanced and harmonious? Are there parts that feel disconnected or out of sync? This exercise can help you identify areas of your life that need attention and bring you closer to a sense of wholeness. Finally, let's explore the concept of synchronicity in more depth. Jung believed that numbers often appear as synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that bridge the gap between the outer world and the inner world, For example, imagine you're going through a difficult time and you keep seeing the number 5. At first, you might dismiss it as a coincidence, but then you start to notice a pattern. The number 5 appears on a clock when you're feeling anxious, in a dream when you're searching for answers, in a conversation when someone offers you unexpected advice. Over time, you begin to feel that the number 5 is guiding you, perhaps reminding you of your ability to adapt and overcome challenges. Jung would say that this isn't just your imagination, it's your unconscious mind using the language of numbers to communicate with you. The number 5 might not hold the same meaning for everyone, but for you, in that moment, it becomes a symbol of resilience and growth. Synchronicities like this are a reminder that the universe is not as random as it seems. There's often a deeper order at work, one that connects the inner and outer worlds in ways we can't always explain. As we wrap up, let me leave you with one final question. What numbers are showing up in your life right now, and what might they be trying to tell you? Take some time to reflect, and remember, numbers are not just symbols of quantity, they are symbols of meaning. By paying attention to the numbers that appear in your life, you're opening yourself up to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Who knows? The next time you see a number that catches your attention, it might just be the beginning of a new psychological journey,